Our next presenter is our very own Reverend Dr. Peter Mbaro, who is going to talk to us about CUEA's commitment to integrating ethics in education. Karibu, Father Mbaro.
The Vice Chancellor, Professor Justice Bai, in absentia, and the Vice Chancellors here present, and the organizers of this conference, workshop, the team from Global Ethics Geneva, all invited guests, the staff members of Catholic University of Eastern Africa, and our students, good afternoon. My presentation and reflection centers on CUEA's commitment to integrating ethics in education. And I would like to remain faithful to the script so that I can manage the few minutes that have been given. And I would begin by noting as an introduction that we begin our reflection by noting that in its vision, CUEA has it very clear that it's committed to producing transformative leaders for church and society. In other words, CUEA is looking forward to see its graduates coloring the world as citizens and leaders who are value-driven in all that they engage in as they pursue personal and professional growth. As an education institution of higher learning, CUEA requires a paradigm shift, as it was noted by Professor Biora, especially in education system. This has to be in the area of ethics. Hence, it is committed to integrating ethics in its education system, thus reviewing its programs and mode of delivery, so that it can accommodate the formation dimension that targets not only the goal of excelling in academics of its graduates, but more so one that addresses the ethical formation gap experienced in our societies in Africa today. This ethical formation aims at helping the learner to appreciate the role of ethics and ethical values in the service of fellow human beings or fellow citizens, and in promoting integral development of the human person that is so much desired for in Africa. CUEA is committed to integrate ethics in higher education. Why this commitment? We have to look at justification for ethics in education for us to understand CUEA's commitment. There is a big question that this workshop and training will seek to answer, namely, why integrate ethics in education? And then focus also on the second question, why does CUEA as a university seek to commit herself in this initiative to have ethics integrated in education? Let us begin by noting that there is a need for ethics in society today more than ever before. There are a number of reasons as to why we need ethics today. First is that a society that serves the common good of the human person is purely founded on sound ethical values and a clear value system, not very much on technical know-how and skills, though the latter are also important. Hence, a society that compromises completely the goods of the human person starts by failing to uphold and transmit its values that serve as the binding moral fiber. Moral fiber of the society that guarantees a just social order and peaceful coexistence in any given society is safeguarded by a moral compass that is given by ethical education or character formation. The second reason why we need ethics is that in our society today, especially here in Kenya in particular, and in Africa in general, the craving for moral or social change is real and urgent. This moral social change is sought by all Kenyans who perceive the abhorrent situation of moral or social decay in our society. our society can be identified as a society losing its sense of ethical living or ethical connect. This can be well encapsulated by quoting James Cardinal Hickey, an Archbishop of Washington, who in the foreword of a book entitled An Introduction to Moral Theology by William E. May noted, "We live in an age that seems to have lost its moral mooring. Too many people are genuinely confused about what is right and what is wrong." What preoccupied the mind of the Cardinal then can be said to be true in our society today. And it is preoccupation of CUEA, because our Kenyan society is going down the slope of moral degeneration and other derived social ills. Looking at the situation of our Kenyan society, we can say with certainty that we need to recover and transmit ethical values through an education that is value-based. To achieve this, all human institutions, beginning with the family, the community that a child grows in, education institution, and other public and private institutions need to integrate ethics in their core activities and life in order to affirm that there is an authentic standard of guiding human behavior of all in our society today. In other words, in order to offer the young people who come to pursue their education in CUEA a value-oriented heritage, we need to have it clear in our minds that what is ailing our society is more of ethical nature than technical, and hence burn within ourselves with a passion and energy for ethics and good. What are the contemporary challenges that CUEA is facing that is pushing her to commit herself to integrating ethics into education? What has moved us to seek to integrate ethics in education in CUEA, and what has moved CUEA to invite other like-minded partners, institutions of higher learning and other stakeholders to engage in this discourse? The main reason is that we can all attest to the fact that there are a number of challenges that our institutions are facing, and especially academic institutions. Some were highlighted there earlier, and I will do no harm by perhaps citing some. Some of the particular challenges are, first, ethical crisis is evident from many experiences of violent conflict and general state of moral degeneration of bigger percentage of the citizenry in many African countries, and Kenya included. One need only to look critically on what families and the entire society have been going through in all areas of life: social, political, economic, cultural, religious, and environmental, to ascertain that there seems to be no guiding ethical principles or value system. The truth is that the sense of ethical principles or values has been compromised in all areas of human life and human living. People endowed with various responsibilities no longer care about the guiding value system that should govern their being and doing. Hence, ethical principles or values as basis of conscious deliberation for good have been compromised and thrown out of our families, social groupings, businesses, education institutions, etc. Second challenge is the absence of role models to the young generation at family, institution, and social levels, which is quite evident today. This can be argued from the point of view that most adults, more unfortunately even parents, seems to share no value or cultural value system, which in turn could be imparted to their children and to the young generation. There seems to be no key family values that are meant to be inherited by children in order to propel them into a stable future. The third challenge that has moved CUEA to think about integrating ethics into education is that the education systems in our society hardly pay attention to value-oriented learning. aimed at integrating formation of the young person. Hence, there is a lacuna insofar as moral formation is concerned, since the academic excellence has been overemphasized both at home and in academic institutions at the expense of other areas of formation that contribute to the integral human development of the young person. Education system that does not integrate ethics in its being and doing tends to destroy its products through and through. No wonder cheating in exams as means of excelling has become a menace in our education system and institutions. Universities, CUEA not exempted, are struggling with the same problem. Perhaps the Ministry of Education, especially the examining body, NEC, is seeking to come up with stringent and punitive measures to curb cheating. While it is doing that, there are others who are working round the clock to come up with new ways of leaking exams. This is quite unfortunate. The fourth challenge is the real meaning of responsible freedom is lacking in our institutions of higher learning and in society in general. In the name of freedom, all ethical principles are sacrificed as people seek to exercise their personal freedom. There are quite a number of young people in our universities who want to be free to do what they consider right or what they want to do, not what they are required to do. The young generation is the most seriously affected in the stratum of the society as they are being socially schooled in the modernity of human rights, and not the right to others that require adherence to demands of values of justice and love and commitment to duty. In such scenario, then all those who are working with young people find it difficult to journey with them as they pursue development and moral maturity. The fifth challenge that has moved this Catholic University to commit itself is that the place of truth in our society has been questioned as people argue that there is no one who can talk about what is moral and what is immoral, what is ethical and what is unethical, what is right and what is wrong, what is good and what is bad. Is there truth, this question always comes, on which the argument on good or bad can be based? The wave of relativism is sweeping away the moral sense in many people as the truth is sacrificed on the altar of personal opinion or personal view. The common expression of "according to me" is often heard in our families, in our schools, along our streets, insofar as moral discernment, moral decision-making choices and actions are concerned. Then many young people in our education system are confused, and they too confuse their peers as to what the truth is regarding ethical values, decisions, and actions. The last of the challenges I would like to highlight, and of course it is currently affecting us, is that we are witnessing a society where human life is no longer treasured for what it is. Human dignity is jeopardized. Abuse of human rights is the order of the day. Child abuse in homes, schools, and in other institutions in various forms is a common reality. Domestic violence, murder, suicide, violence, rape, sexual promiscuity among adolescents, drug and alcohol abuse, and all these lead to desperation and many other social ills. These are the challenges that CUEA as a university, as an academic institution, is struggling with and seek to give an answer as it integrates ethics into education. What we are witnessing then in our society requires decisive intervention by various social institutions and by various stakeholders from different quarters of our society. Among these institutions, The academic institution starts out, of course, as a complementary institution to the family. However, this value education that is supposed to be given by these institutions need to seek to center on the imparting of values. And as CUEA engages in this endeavor, each protagonist has to take this into account, that like any other development in a human person's life, transmission of ethical values and consequently moral growth is gradual, journeying with the young person until this person achieves that which we call moral maturity. This is because the human person comes to grasp ethical values only gradually. This has necessitated this training of CUEA staff so that all those in ethics in education, can be trained to assist the young person or the young people towards moral maturity and moral growth, while taking this truth into account, that moral maturity takes place gradually in a human person. Moral growth through transmission of ethical values aims at helping the learner to acquire certain values in order to undergo the process of personal maturity. This maturation in the process of moral growth is whereby the individual eventually ends up being a man or a woman of sound moral character. In other words, the human person experiences wholeness of life where relationships are healthy and complete. Relationship with God, relationship with others, of course, relationship with self, and relationship with the entire order of creation. Ethical formation in education institution should primarily aim at instilling genuine values in the minds and hearts of the young people, and consequently making him or her act following the internalized value system. Of course, this has to take into account the 3 levels of moral education process, namely informative, formative, and transformative level of moral education. And I think that is where Aligato will come in order to help those who are going to be trained to understand the 3 levels of moral maturation. In the first level, the focus is the mind. In the second level, the focus is internalizing of ethical values in the person's life. And in the third level, the moral person commits himself or herself to live by the ethical values learned and seek to change his or her attitude, behavior, and conduct within the society. At this level, the young person is helped to apply particular ethical values or value system developed to diverse situations and circumstances of life and act accordingly. In this way, the young person moves with ethical values to the society rather than leaving it in or leaving them in the lecture room. Ethical values get rooted in one's life only when one is able to use them daily as one faces challenges in life. Insofar as then transmission of these values is concerned, it is important for us to conclude by noting that moral goodness is a quality of a person, constituted not by what we call rule-keeping behavior alone, but cultivating certain virtues, attitudes, and outlook, as Richard Gura notes in his book, Reason Informed by Faith. I conclude by noting, CUEA is committed to integrate ethics in education, and this is to be achieved by having the entire staff develop interest in this area of study on the one hand. And on the other hand, it has to have all its academic staff trained on how to integrate ethics in education by learning the appropriate skills in order to successfully achieve the goals of
As for me, I will serve.